My name is Muriel Simmons. I'm 29 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned about love, it's that it doesn't disappear overnight. It fades slowly like a song, playing from another room until one day you realize it's not even playing anymore. When I met Tyron Cole, I thought I'd found someone who balanced me. He was charming, magnetic, the kind of man who could talk to anyone about anything and make them feel like they were the most interesting person in the room. He worked in marketing, and he thrived on attention. He needed eyes on him the way most people need air. I was different. I liked quiet things, coffee before sunrise, slow mornings, movie nights with takeout. My world was steady structured, maybe even boring to some. But Tyron made it brighter. He made it feel like my life had background music again. For 3 years, we were what everyone called solid. Not perfect, not wild, but dependable. He brought the energy. I brought the calm. People used to joke that I grounded him. I wore that like a badge of honor. Looking back now, that was my first mistake. Tyron loved the idea of balance until it started to feel like restraint. It began with harmless flirting. At least that's what I told myself. There was a woman in his department, Clara, a pretty brunette with a laugh that could slice through glass. She started showing up in Tyron's Instagram stories. Lunches, happy hours, inside jokes tagged with #workwife. At first, I ignored it. I trusted him. I wanted to trust him. But one night, he posted a boomerang of them at some rooftop bar. Her hand on his shoulder, his face close to hers. The caption read, "My favorite headache." I remember staring at my phone, heart hammering. Not because I was jealous, but because I suddenly felt embarrassed. Embarrassed that everyone who saw that post might think I was okay with it. When he came home that night, half drunk, glowing from attention, I asked as calmly as I could, "Muriel, hey, can I ask you something? That post with Clara, do you think that's a little disrespectful?" He blinked, then laughed like I'd just told a bad joke. "Tyron, you're not seriously jealous of Clara, are you?" "Muriel, it's not jealousy. It just looked intimate, that's all." He smirked, loosened his tie. "Tyron, relax, Len. It's just a joke. She calls me her work husband. I call her my work wife. Everyone knows it's not serious." "Muriel, then maybe it doesn't need to be public." That's when his expression shifted dismissive, almost bored. "Tyron, you're so uptight sometimes. You know you're the real one. Don't turn this into a trust issue." He kissed my cheek and walked off to change, leaving me standing there with that pit in my stomach that felt suspiciously like humiliation. That night, he fell asleep easily. I didn't. I lay there staring at the ceiling, wondering when asking for respect had become being dramatic. The next few weeks, the pattern continued. More nights out, more team bonding, more photos I didn't want to see. Every Friday, he'd get dressed like he was auditioning for a lifestyle ad, crisp shirts, new shoes, expensive cologne. "Don't wait up for me, Miss Responsible," he'd say with a grin. He always said it like a joke. I stopped laughing around the third time. I remember one evening clearly. I'd stayed late at work, debugging a client's logistics software. The office was empty, except for the hum of the vending machine. Out of habit, I opened Instagram. Tyron had posted a story, him and Clara again. This time she was feeding him fries across the table, captioned, "Work dinners get dangerous." My stomach dropped. I didn't cry. I didn't text. I just stared at the screen until it dimmed, then quietly packed my bag and left. The next morning over coffee, I finally said, "Muriel, do you really think it's okay to let another woman feed you fries while you're in a relationship?" He looked at me like I was overreacting. "Tyron, oh my God, you saw that. You're stalking my stories now." "Muriel, you posted it publicly." "Tyron, you're being controlling, Muriel. It's not a big deal." That word controlling hit me harder than any insult. He said it so smoothly, like he'd been saving it for a day I dared to speak up. I remember setting my mug down carefully, my voice barely above a whisper. "Muriel, you know what's not controlling Tyron, expecting basic respect." He shrugged, leaned back, and said something I'll never forget. "Tyron, we're not married, Muriel. You can't expect loyalty yet." The room went still. Even the refrigerator hum seemed to stop. I stood there, the air around me thick with disbelief. I wanted to yell, to throw something, but instead I heard myself say quietly, "Muriel, then you'll never have to worry about mine again." He blinked confused, maybe waiting for me to cry or fight. But I didn't. I walked to the bedroom, grabbed a duffel bag, and started folding clothes. He didn't move, didn't ask me to stay, didn't even stand up. When I zipped my bag and walked toward the door, he finally spoke. "Tyron, you're really leaving over this." "Muriel, no," I said. "I'm leaving because you think this is normal." The door clicked behind me, soft and final. Outside, the air was cold and sharp. I remember thinking how quiet the world suddenly was without his voice filling every space. I didn't feel angry yet, just hollow. But as I walked down those dim apartment stairs, duffel bag on my shoulder, a strange calm settled in my chest. Maybe it wasn't heartbreak I felt, maybe it was relief. Because deep down, I already knew something he didn't. When someone treats your boundaries like a joke, the punchline always ends with you walking away. That was the night I first mistook silence for peace. I didn't expect him to call that night, and he didn't. Maybe a part of me hoped he'd show up at my friend Noah's apartment drenched in guilt or rain or both. But Tyron didn't chase anyone, not even the people he claimed to love. The next morning, my phone lit up with a single message. I hope you're not overreacting. Let's talk when you calm down. I stared at it for a long time before turning the screen face down. When someone reduces your pain to a mood that's not love, that's control wearing charm as camouflage. I stayed with Noah for a few nights. He didn't pry, just handed me coffee and offered his couch. He's an idiot, Noah said simply. Yeah, I replied. But he's an idiot I let in. The silence that followed was comforting. No music, no voices, just the hum of the city through the window. For a few days I floated through life half numb, working remotely, ignoring messages from mutual friends, and telling myself that walking away wasn't weakness. It was self-respect in motion. But life has a way of testing your resolve right after you make a choice. On Friday night, Noah convinced me to step outside for air. We stopped by a cafe near downtown, the kind with soft jazz and low lights, exactly the kind Tyron used to claim was too quiet. When we walked past the big glass window, I froze. Inside, under gold hanging lights, sat Tyron and Clara. She was laughing at something brushing her hair behind her ear, her hand grazing his arm like they'd done it 1,000 times before. His grin was easy, relaxed, the same one he used on me when we first started dating. For a split second, our eyes met through the window. He didn't flinch. He didn't even look guilty. I turned away before Noah could say anything. Let's just go, I whispered. By the time we reached the corner, I was shaking. Not from heartbreak, but humiliation. The kind that makes your skin burn, even when you've done nothing wrong. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face across that table, unchanged, unbothered. The next morning, I drove to our old apartment. His car was parked out front, his windows fogged from the morning chill. He was home. When I stepped inside, he looked up from his phone, startled, but not surprised. Tyron Muriel. You came back. Muriel. Don't flatter yourself. I came for the rest of my things. He sighed, leaned back, trying for that practiced smirk. Tyron, you're really doing this. Muriel. I'm not sticking around for someone who treats loyalty like an optional subscription. Tyron, God, you're being dramatic. I didn't cheat, Muriel. We were just figuring things out. Muriel. You were figuring things out with someone else while I was paying half the rent. That hit him. His jaw tightened, but instead of apologizing, he laughed a dry, empty sound. Tyron. So what you think that means? I owe you forever. Muriel, no. Just honesty. But I guess that's asking too much. He muttered something under his breath about old-fashioned women like valuing loyalty was a relic of another century. I kept packing, slowly, methodically. The sound of clothes folding was louder than either of us speaking. Every so often he'd throw in a comment like he was trying to bait me. You'll never find someone who's as upfront as I am. Most people lie, Muriel. At least I'm honest about what I want. Finally, I stopped and looked at him. Muriel. You're not honest, Tyron. You're selfish. There's a difference. He blinked, maybe realizing that for the first time I wasn't angry, I was done. Tyron, maybe I just don't want to live by your outdated rules. I smiled faintly. Muriel, then live by your own. Just don't expect me to stay in your world. That was it. No screaming, no tears, just the clean sound of my suitcase zipper closing. When I reached the door, he called out one last time. Tyron, you'll regret this someday. You'll see how boring peace feels. I didn't turn around. Muriel, then I hope boredom feels like freedom. The hallway outside smelled of dust and rain. I stepped into the elevator, and when the doors closed, I finally exhaled. The kind of breath you don't know you've been holding for months. Driving away, the city looked different, muted, washed out. Every street corner carried memories I didn't want anymore. I didn't cry. I didn't replay the breakup. I just kept driving until his building disappeared in my rearview mirror. Later that night, I sent him a single text. I'll come by next week for the rest of my things. Please leave the key on the counter. He never replied. For days, I told myself that silence was closure. But the truth is, silence only feels peaceful when it's shared. When it's one-sided, it just echoes. Still, I chose it. I chose the echo. Because anything was better than being drowned out by someone who laughed every time I asked to be heard. And maybe, just maybe, that was the real ending. Because some breakups don't explode, they just fade quietly like a joke that was never funny to begin with. The first few weeks after leaving Tyrone felt like detox. No calls, no where are you texts, no calendar reminders tied to his schedule. Just quiet. The kind of quiet that used to feel empty, but now felt like oxygen. I crashed at Noah's apartment for a while. His couch sagged in the middle and his dog snored like an old man. But it was still the most peace I'd had in months. He didn't ask for details, didn't try to dissect what went wrong. Instead, he just said, "You don't have to explain anything, Muriel. Just breathe." So I did. The first breath was guilt. The second was grief. The third, freedom. I threw myself into work. My projects at the logistics firm suddenly became my therapy. I stayed late, debugging lines of code like they could fix the broken logic in my personal life. At home, I started running again. Just me, the pavement, and the sound of my own heartbeat. Every step felt like a small reclamation of space, of time, of self. But healing isn't linear. There were nights I still reached for my phone, half expecting a miss you text that never came. My thumb hovered over his name in my contacts list more times than I'd admit. Then one night I deleted it for good. The next morning I made myself pancakes. No special reason, no anniversary, no good morning selfie to send to anyone, just pancakes. And for the first time, that felt like enough. Months passed. Life reshaped itself quietly. One afternoon, while I was reviewing a software proposal, Noah called. His voice carried that cautious tone people use before delivering news they're not sure you want to hear. "Noah, you didn't hear this from me, but Tyrone and Clara are official now. Muriel." "Yeah," I figured. "Noah. He's been telling people you were too possessive. That's why it ended." I laughed, not bitterly, just softly, like I was finally seeing the pattern. "Muriel, of course. He rewrites stories when he's the villain." There was a pause, then Noah said, "You sound okay." "I am," I replied, "or I'm learning to be." That night, I sat on the balcony of Noah's apartment's city lights, blinking like distant thoughts. I watched couples walking below, some laughing, some arguing, and realized I didn't envy any of them. For the first time in years, my peace didn't depend on someone else's mood. A few months later, I moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't much bare walls, one plant I was sure I'd kill within a week, but it was mine. Every sound belonged to me, every silence too. I stopped checking social media altogether. Not because I was afraid of seeing Tyrone, but because I didn't care to. I didn't need to track his chaos anymore. Then, one evening, in early autumn, as I was cooking dinner, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I opened the message, and my heart didn't race this time, it just noticed. "Tyrone, hey, I think we should talk. I feel like you misunderstood me." I stared at it for a long moment, then chuckled. That was his version of closure, turning every betrayal into a misunderstanding. I didn't reply. I didn't even save the number. I just deleted the text, wiped my hands on a towel, and went back to stirring the soup. No reply, no second thought. Because when someone shows you who they are, misunderstanding them isn't the problem, believing them was. That night, I went for a walk under the city's fading neon lights. Couples brushed past me, their laughter echoing off wet pavement. I smiled not because I was happy, but because I was free. Freedom isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself with music or grand speeches. It whispers. It hums quietly when you realize you don't owe anyone a reaction anymore. A year ago, I thought silence was the absence of love. Now I knew better. Silence wasn't emptiness. It was peace earned the hard way. And that's when I realized I hadn't lost anything. I'd simply stopped fighting for what was already gone. It had been nearly a year since I last saw Tyrone's face, long enough for the memory of his voice to blur, long enough for his name to stop hurting when it came up. I'd moved into my own apartment by then, small, bright, and quiet, the kind of place where the hum of the refrigerator felt like company, and the morning sun through the blinds looked like forgiveness. Work was going well, too. My manager had noticed the long hours and calm consistency I brought to projects. A quiet promotion followed a raise, a corner cubicle, and a strange kind of stability I hadn't felt in years. I didn't celebrate with champagne or fireworks. I just lit a candle that night and told myself, "You're finally okay." That's when karma decided to knock. It came disguised as Noah's voice on the phone one Saturday morning. "Noah, you sitting down, Muriel." "That bad, Noah, that good," he chuckled. So apparently Tyrone's not with Clara anymore. My heart didn't skip, it didn't do anything, it just listened. "Muriel, That was quick. Noah, turns out Miss Workwife, was sleeping with another guy from their office. Muriel. You're kidding. Noah. Nope. And here's the kicker. When she confronted him, he told her the same thing he told you. Muriel. Let me guess. Noah. We're not married, so you can't expect loyalty yet. I didn't laugh. I just smiled into the silence, slow and small. Poetic justice has a quiet sound. It doesn't roar, it exhales. Noah, you okay, Muriel? Yeah. I guess he finally met someone who speaks his language. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not out of satisfaction, but out of symmetry. Life had a way of circling back to people who never learned from what they broke. Over the next few months, bits of gossip floated my way. Tyron and Clara's breakup had become office folklore. Apparently, there was shouting tears, even HR involvement. He'd been reassigned to another team. Meanwhile, my world was the opposite of chaos. Mornings filled with coffee and podcasts, evenings spent reading or painting small canvases I'd never show anyone. I wasn't chasing peace anymore, it was just there sitting beside me like an old friend. Sometimes, though, I'd get glimpses of who I used to be. The woman who thought love was supposed to be loud, fiery, complicated, the kind of love Tyron offered. And I'd whisper to her, you survived that storm, so you could enjoy this calm. A few weeks later, Noah called again. I could hear the disbelief in his tone before he even spoke. Noah. You won't believe this one. Muriel. At this point, I believe anything. Noah Tyron's been dumped again. And apparently, it's messy. Muriel. Let me guess. Another coworker, Noah, not this time. A freelancer he met online. She left him when she found out he was still seeing someone else. I shook my head, a soft laugh escaping before I could stop it. Muriel, same movie, different cast. Noah. You're really not even a little smug about this, Muriel, no. You can't be smug about someone who never grew up. That night I sat by my window, watching the rain slide down the glass. For a brief second, I pictured Tyron, alone in his apartment phone, lighting up with no one left to text. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel triumph. I felt distance, the kind that doesn't ache anymore. People think karma means revenge. But it's really just life teaching balance. You throw chaos into someone else's peace, and one day it lands right back in your own. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. You don't need closure from people who taught you everything you needed to close yourself. The next morning, sunlight streamed across my floorboards, warm and unapologetic. It hit the small mirror I kept by the windowsill and bounced a golden line across my face. For the first time, I didn't flinch at my reflection. The woman staring back wasn't the quiet one who begged for respect. She was calm, capable, untouched by someone else's storms. Tyron's story had come full circle, but mine had only begun to open. Because sometimes karma isn't about payback, it's about finally learning to stop looking back. I thought that was it. That karma had handled whatever balance the universe needed, and that I could finally live without Tyron's shadow lurking at the edge of my life. I was wrong. It started with another text. Same number I'd deleted months ago, same casual tone that used to pull me back in. Tyron. You were right about her. I should have listened. Just one sentence. I stared at it for a few seconds, then locked my phone and set it face down on the table. I didn't reply. I didn't even delete it. I just let it sit there like a dead leaf on clean water. 2 days later, another message appeared. Tyron. I miss you. I've been thinking about us. Can we talk? That one I did delete. Because when someone burns the bridge, you don't stand at the riverbank waiting for them to learn how to swim. Still, it stirred something, a faint curiosity about how far he'd fallen, and the world, as if on cue, delivered the answer through Noah. He called one evening, his voice carrying that strange mix of pity and vindication. Noah, you're not going to believe this. Tyron's life is a disaster right now. Muriel. Define disaster. Noah, he got laid off. Clara's gone. His parents cut him off financially after bailing him out of debt. He's back living in his old apartment alone. I exhaled slowly. Not surprised. Not thrilled. Just done. Muriel. That's unfortunate. Noah, that's all you're going to say, Muriel. I already said everything that mattered a year ago. But life apparently wasn't finished with its irony. A week later, it rained hard. The kind of cold rain that makes the city look like a reflection of itself. I'd gone out for coffee and was walking home under my umbrella when a car pulled up in front of my building. The headlights caught a familiar face through the blur of water. Tyron. He stepped out before I could move, standing under the awning, like a ghost, unsure if it belonged in this world. His hair was shorter, his clothes rumpled. He looked smaller somehow, like time had sanded down his edges. Tyron Muriel. Hey. Just my name. Soft and certain. Muriel. What are you doing here? He looked at me with the kind of regret that comes too late to matter. Tyron, can we talk just 5 minutes? I should have said no. Every instinct told me to. But something in his voice, it wasn't arrogance anymore. It was emptiness. So I nodded just once. We stood there under the awning, rain falling in sheets around us. Tyron, I know I don't deserve this, but I needed to see you. I keep thinking about what I threw away. I've been trying to get my life together, but everything I touch just falls apart. He laughed bitterly, shoving his hands into his pockets. Tyron, you told me once I treated loyalty like a joke. You were right. Clara cheated, others lied, and now I finally get it. I thought I wanted freedom. Turns out freedom's just loneliness in better lighting. I didn't say anything. The rain filled the silence for me. Tyron, you made things feel calm, you know that. And I mistook calm for boring. I wanted excitement, but excitement doesn't hold you when things fall apart. I'm sorry, Muriel, for everything. For a moment, I just looked at him, the man I once loved enough to break my own heart for, and all I felt was distance. Not anger, not affection, just miles of silence between who we were and who we'd become. Muriel, I appreciate you saying that, but I don't hate you, Tyron. I just stopped needing you to matter. He flinched, not because I said it cruelly, but because I said it gently. Gently is always worse. He nodded, eyes glistening. Tyron, is there any chance we could try again? Not now, but maybe someday. I shook my head. Muriel, no. You deserve peace, but I can't be part of your healing. That's yours to do. He swallowed hard, looking down. Tyron, you really did love me, didn't you? Muriel, yeah. And that's exactly why I had to let you go. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The rain kept falling like it wanted to erase everything between us. He finally whispered, Tyron, you're different now. Muriel, that's what surviving looks like. He nodded, tears threatening, then stepped back. Tyron, take care of yourself, Muriel. Muriel, I already am. He turned, walked back to his car, and drove off without looking back. When the taillights disappeared into the wet darkness, I felt something unexpected, a wave of gratitude, not for him, but for the closure he didn't realize he'd just given me. That night, I got one last message. Tyron, thank you for not hating me. I hope you're happy. I typed a reply, stared at it, then deleted it before sending. Some stories don't need a response. Some just need to stop. That night, as I fell asleep, I realized forgiveness isn't about letting someone back in. It's about locking the door and finally throwing away the key. Time has a strange way of folding itself. Before I knew it, another year had passed since that night under the rain, since Tyron's voice had cracked through my quiet life one last time. But even memories have an expiration date, and his had finally reached it. I'd built something steady again, something that looked suspiciously like happiness. After leaving the logistics firm, I took a leap and started my own small UX design consultancy. It was terrifying at first, like standing on the edge of a cliff and hoping the ground would appear beneath your feet. But it worked. Clients came, word spread, and within months I had a small but reliable team. The kind of team that didn't need to be impressed, just trusted. My days became simple in the best way, early runs along the riverside, work that challenged me, evenings that belonged only to me. I wasn't chasing excitement anymore. I was protecting peace. And for a while that was enough. Then one spring evening, Noah walked into my office with a mischievous grin. Noah, you're coming to the networking gala next week. Muriel. The what, Noah? The citywide one. Our firm co-sponsors. Everyone's going to be there. It'll be good for visibility. Muriel, Noah, you know I hate those small talk conventions of pretending to be fascinated by someone's elevator pitch. Noah, exactly why you should go. You'll make them nervous by being honest. I laughed, finally agreeing. Maybe it was time to stop hiding from the noise and simply walk through it unaffected. The night of the gala arrived. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and people who spoke in rehearsed enthusiasm. I wore a dark green dress, simple, elegant, unbothered. The kind that made confidence look quiet, not loud. Halfway through the evening, I was talking to a designer about a potential collaboration when I heard it. My name. Muriel. I turned and froze. Tyron. He looked older, not by years, but by weight, like life had been sitting heavy on his shoulders. His once sharp confidence had dulled into something uncertain. Muriel Tyron. Tyron, wow. I didn't think I'd see you here. Muriel, same. For a moment, the room blurred around us, the chatter, the music, the clinking glasses. All I could hear was the ghost of a man I used to love standing in front of me, trying to gather words that had lost their power. He smiled weakly. Tyron, you look incredible, successful. Everyone here seems to know you. Muriel, I've been keeping busy. Tyron, yeah, I heard you started your own firm. That's amazing. His voice cracked slightly on the word amazing. Muriel, things are going well. A silence settled between us, not the kind filled with tension, but with finality. He shifted his weight, exhaled. Tyron, I'm doing contract work now. It's been rough. After everything that happened, you probably heard. Muriel, bits and pieces. Tyron Clara cheated again, then took money from me, lied about everything. I got fired after that. It's like karma came for me in installments. I didn't say anything. There was nothing left to add. The world had already told our story for us. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes glistening slightly. Tyron, you must think I deserve all of it. I met his gaze steady, calm, untouchable. Muriel, I don't think about it at all. That line hit him like a quiet slap. He blinked like it hadn't even occurred to him that indifference could cut deeper than anger. Tyron, I've tried to move on, but nothing feels right. Every relationship since you has been chaos. It's like I'm paying for what I did to you. Muriel, that's not my business anymore. You made your choices, Tyron. You're living with them, same as I did. Tyron, you sound so calm, like none of it mattered. Muriel, it mattered once, but pain stops being relevant when you grow past it. He looked down, jaw tight eyes, glimmering with something between guilt and exhaustion. Around us, the world moved on laughter. Handshakes, clinking glasses, but we were standing in the stillness of an ending that no longer hurt. Tyron. Can I just say one thing, Muriel? Go ahead. Tyron. You were the only person who ever wanted something real with me, and I destroyed it because I thought I could do better. I was wrong. For the first time, I smiled. Not bitterly, not triumphantly, just softly. Muriel, you didn't just lose me, Tyron. You lost the version of yourself that someone could have built a life with. He swallowed hard, eyes glassy. Tyron, yeah, I know. I nodded politely, the conversation already over. Muriel, take care of yourself. And I walked away. When I rejoined Noah and my team, I could feel Tyron's gaze on my back, but it didn't follow me home. Later that night, I got a message. Tyron, seeing you tonight reminded me who I could have been if I hadn't ruined everything. I hope you keep being happy, even if I'm not part of it. I didn't reply. I archived the message and turned off my phone. Then I stepped out onto my balcony. The city stretched beneath me, alive, loud, indifferent. I sipped my wine and watched the lights flicker like faraway stars. And for the first time in years, I realized something simple, yet profound. Peace doesn't need witnesses. It doesn't demand applause or validation. It just exists quiet, certain earned. Tyron had been right about one thing once. Peace can feel boring. But if boredom means no betrayal, no manipulation, no begging to be heard, then I'll take it every time. I leaned against the railing, closed my eyes, and smiled. Because the truth is moving on doesn't mean forgetting who hurt you. It means remembering and still choosing yourself anyway. And in that silence, for the first time ever, I didn't feel like I'd lost him. I felt like I'd finally found me.